Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Victor of Cars Jubilee, and today we're back in my Genesis GV60 talking about my very first servicing experience ever with my Genesis GV60. And spoiler alert, it's probably the best service I've ever experienced. So for today's video, we're actually going to go over exactly what's wrong with my Genesis GV60 and why I had to take it in for service. Then we'll go over how buying a Genesis has actually saved me time and money. And then we'll go over just the absolutely amazing experience I've had servicing my Genesis GV60 at Genesis of Cherry Hill. So let's get to it. Let's start off with a fun fact, and that would be that the Ioniq 5 and the GV60 have actually been serviced at the same exact location, because Burns Hyundai and Genesis of Cherry Hill currently share the same dealership until Genesis of Cherry Hill's new location is finished. But until then, they share the same service bay. So then you would think that the service between the two cars should be about the same, right? Well, actually, no. In fact, I think Genesis of Cherry Hill and the Genesis brand in general has done a great job of differentiating the service between these two different brands. Let's move on to what's actually wrong with my Genesis GV60 and why I needed to take it in for service. Number one is the deformed rubber window seal. Now, this has been there since day one. I actually noticed it the evening I brought the car home, but I tried pulling it out myself, and I wanted to wait and see if it would kind of reshape itself if given time. And it's been almost 4 months, and it hasn't reshaped itself. It's still kind of deformed. So I figured, hey, let the dealership know and let them figure out what to do with it next. And up front, the driver's side door, there's a fraying rubber seal. And it's small, but it's there. And again, I figured, hey, let the dealership know, let them figure out what to do with it. Next up was my vehicle to load port. Now I have one underneath my second row, just like the Ioniq 5 in the limited trim, and it opens exactly the same way. You use the key given to you and you can just kind of flip it a little bit and it should open. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get this one open. Maybe it was jammed. Then there is a leather crease on my driver's seat. Now, like I said, we've only had the car for 4 months. My wife and I are pretty small, pretty light. So I just didn't expect the leather to be creasing this early on. We've only got about 3,500 miles or so on the car. So again, I figured, hey, let the dealership know and see what they say about it. And next, our car needed an alignment. So it's been pulling to the right a little bit for the past month. And I actually tried to get a lifetime alignment package through Pep Boys. But when I went, they said, oh, our system can't handle anything newer than a 2021 model. This is a 2023. And then we also had a nail in our driver's side rear tire. Now, looking at the nail, to me, it looks like it's in the tread portion. So I could have probably just plugged it up myself, but I figured, hey, the car is going in for service anyways, and I technically have a service contract with the dealership already, and they should do that for free anyways. We'll come back to the service contract in a little bit, but I figured, hey, let them deal with it. And then it was the fingerprint reader. Now, if you watch one of my previous videos, I said, hey, the face unlock system works perfectly, but the fingerprint reader is extremely inconsistent to the point where I don't trust it. So I wanted to get it looked at because I saw someone else say, oh, their fingerprint reader works every single time. And lastly, we have squeaky brakes. And this only happens intermittently when we're in reverse. And I've realized that it's only happening when it's warm outside. Meaning once the weather has changed to colder temperatures recently, I haven't heard it. So that's why we're taking our Genesis GV60 in for service. Nothing major, just a lot of little things that I wanted to get resolved under warranty. So what's so great about the Genesis brand and how are they saving me time and money? Number one is the complimentary 3 years of valet service. Now with valet service, it's listed on the actual window sticker, and that means for the next 3 years, anytime I need to get my Genesis GV60 serviced, I let them know, hey, I want a loaner, I want valet service, and what they'll do is they'll send a driver with a loaner vehicle to my house. They'll leave me the loaner and they'll take my Genesis GV60 back to the dealership for me. They'll do all the servicing, get everything done, and when it's done, they'll bring my car back to my house, swap out the vehicles, and take the loaner vehicle back to the dealership. So basically, it's door-to-door service, and I never have to leave my house. Or let's say I'm at work and I tell them, hey, I want the car dropped off at this location or picked up at this location. They'll do that as well. But basically, they'll make it work based on my schedule with where I am with my car. I think it's a pretty big deal because I live about an hour away from Genesis of Cherry Hill. They are my closest EV certified Genesis dealership, and that means anytime I need to get this thing serviced, it has to go to Genesis of Cherry Hill. I'm basically saving about 4 hours of time. Basically 2 round trips, each drive is an hour. So an hour there, hour back, and when the car's done, another hour there, an hour back. So in total, each time I service the car, it's 4 hours saved. Now, how is Genesis brand saving me money? That would have to do with the tire or wheel alignment. And the service advisor called me. We got to the alignment item and he said, your Genesis comes with a 12-month, 12,000 mile alignment warranty. And I was like, wait, what? Isn't that like a wear and tear item? And they said, hey, your car comes with this warranty. So as long as during service, we can pinpoint the issue as being one of the tires out of alignment, then you're covered. So you have essentially 1 year of free alignments. And I was blown away because I've never heard that. If you know of another brand that provides free tire or wheel alignments, let me know in the comment section below, because again, to me, that's a wear and tear item, and I've never heard of that being a factory warranty item. If not for the warranty, I would be paying about $250 per alignment at the dealership. And as I mentioned before, I don't have the option to get it done anywhere else. So it's definitely saving me money because I also live in Philadelphia, tons of potholes and bad roads, and I would typically expect to do about 2, maybe even 3 alignments per year, depending on the vehicle. This one has 21-inch wheels and they take a beating on my local roads. So I'm saving about 4 hours each time I service my car, and I'm going to save at least $250 each time I get my tire alignment done free of charge at Genesis. So that's the time and the money saved thanks to purchasing a Genesis. Now let's move on to why I had such an excellent experience getting my car serviced specifically at Genesis of Cherry Hill. The first thing that actually impressed me was the valet driver. Now pretend with me a moment that you own a Genesis GV60 Performance with 483 horsepower with a boost mode just with the press of a button. Well, your worst fear is probably having a 20-something-year-old valet driver pull up and say, hey, give me your keys. I'm going to take it back to the dealership. The first driver came completely decked out in his Genesis uniform. He had black shoes, black pants, Genesis jacket, super nice, super polite, and very calm elderly gentleman. And as he pulled out of my driveway with my GV60, he was very calm, and I could appreciate that. And when they came to drop off my car, same thing. It was another gentleman, also black shoes, black pants, Genesis jacket, also looked like he was probably in his 60s, who would probably not be using the boost mode in my car. Now, they could have, but my guess is they probably didn't. The next thing that I was really happy about actually goes back to the service contract. Now, I mentioned before that my GV60 came with a service contract. It's called the 3-for-1, and it includes coverage for windshield cracks, small ones. It covers tire repairs and tire replacements for road hazards, and then it also covers paintless dent removal. Now, those 3 things are completely free for 1 whole year. And when I was signing the papers for my car, they handed me a paper and said, hey, this is included free of charge with your car. And at the time, that just blew my mind because it was summer of 2022 when markups were at the highest and the GV60 had just released. So I was buying the car at MSRP and I was going to be getting a free service contract for a whole year. And I was just like, wow, that is awesome. Now, of course, if you watch my other video of how I bought the car at MSRP, you would have seen they actually already threw in other free stuff as well. But in this case, remember I had a nail in my back tire? Well, they ended up texting me and saying, hey, we're waiting for a new tire for you. And I was like, wait, what? I thought it was just a little nail that could have been patched. And he said, well, we deemed it as damage to the sidewall and you have a service contract, so that's getting replaced 100% free of charge. 100% covered, which is probably anywhere from $300 to $350, and they're providing the labor to actually replace it. And I was like, wow, no complaints here, right? Because to me, the damage looked like it was in the tread, not the sidewall. But they went ahead and replaced it free of charge. I didn't have to complain or argue or anything for it. They just went ahead and did it. And in fact, I recently noticed that I have a little dent on my door. Probably happened at some point when my wife was at work. Someone probably parked too close, opened the door, slammed it into the car, and that stuff happens. Luckily, I don't see any paint damage, but there is a little dent. And guess what? That's also going to be covered free of charge under the service contract that they gave me completely for free. So the next time this car goes in, I'm going to have them take a look at that. I've gotten free alignment. I've gotten a free tire back there. I'm going to be getting free paintless dent removal over there. What else is free? Well, in fact, there is one more thing. So when they dropped off my car, they handed me a little envelope showing all the work that's been done, but tucked away in there was actually a Godiva chocolate bar. Now, some people might be like, ooh, Godiva chocolate bar for free, who cares? But to me, that shows me that they're willing to go the extra mile to make sure that I feel appreciated. I'm thinking, man, I only want to buy Genesis and I only want to service it at Genesis of Cherry Hill because it's been that great of an experience. Here's the full breakdown. As you can see, I paid a grand total of $0, and they've ordered new seals, and they made a note of some of the stuff where we'll keep an eye on it, and if the problems crop back up or becomes more noticeable, then we'll just take it back in and they'll take another look. And just as a whole, this experience was a breath of fresh air for me. It was just so refreshing to know that my car was in good hands, that I had nothing to worry about, and that everything was covered under warranty or under my service contract, which again was free. Now, just on a side, remember that loaner vehicle? Well, they actually dropped off a G70 3.3T. That's the fast one with 350 or 360 something horsepower. And it was actually a lot of fun. I'd always been somewhat interested in that vehicle. It's got the same powertrain as a Kia Stinger. It's just dressed up differently in a Genesis. And with the new front fascia, this thing looks stunning. But you know what? They were actually trying to get me a G80 electrified. And then when they pulled up into the driveway with the G70, I was honestly a little disappointed. But then when I walked around back and I saw the 3.3T badge, I was like, okay, this will be fun. This will work, no problem. Just looking up and down the Genesis lineup, there's not a car in there that I don't want to try. I love the looks of the interiors, the exteriors, the powertrains, everything. Meaning I want to try a GV70, a GV80, and a G80, and a G90. Literally everything. Another one of the perks of owning a Genesis is just having access to a really, really good loaner vehicle lineup. I honestly walked away, or in this case, I didn't do any walking. I stayed at home. But I came away from this whole experience literally thinking, I'm just going to buy Genesis from now on, and I'm going to make sure it gets serviced at Genesis of Cherry Hill because it's the least amount of work or headache I've ever experienced in terms of servicing a car. Now, those of you with experience servicing at Genesis, let me know. Is it like this across the board, or is maybe Genesis of Cherry Hill just one of the better ones? I'm curious. Let me know in the comment section below. If you followed my channel previously, you may have seen my servicing videos with my Ioniq 5. And if you watch those videos and you watch this video, you can see just how different the experience has been. With my Ioniq 5, it was a struggle to try to find a dealership that would even provide loaners. And eventually we found one, but it took, weeks and weeks of calling and talking to different service advisors and eventually going through corporate and having them figure it out for me, where eventually we found Burns Hyundai and confirmed that they would provide a loaner or would make sure I would have a rental vehicle if I needed it. But there are other Hyundai dealers out there, certified Ioniq dealers, that will not provide loaners. And for me, that doesn't work when the dealership's an hour away. So anyways, if you're curious about those videos, I'll post the links above so you guys can check them out. Otherwise, I just can't say enough about my servicing experience through the Genesis dealership at Cherry Hill and Genesis brand as a whole. And I just look forward to continuing my service experience through them. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.